So, you want to learn Sting Dance Toga, do you? Well, you certainly come to the right place, that's for sure. Today, I'm going to be covering all sorts of Rapid Toga details, ranging from I just started the game to I've been Ace Rank every season that the game has had Ace Rank. I could do a longer, more drawn out preamble, but that's too slow. Come on, we're Rapids, let's rush right into it. Except, hold up. Rushing into things mindlessly is not what Rapid Toga is about. So, let's find you a good starting point. Speaking of starting points, let's cover Rapid Toga's moveset. After all, you're not going to get very far if you just try and melee people. So, let's go over what Rapid Toga has to offer. First up, her alpha, called Jagged Spinning Knife, is a short to mid-range projectile that rebounds when it hits an obstacle or its maximum range. Now, this move has 75 down power when it hits you the first time, and it has another 75 if the rebound hits. But what the heck is down power? I just started the game. You can't throw this at me, I hear you shouting. Don't worry about what down power is just yet. I'll explain in a minute. Let's focus on how alpha works. After the alpha is thrown, if Toga repositions before the alpha rebounds, it actually changes direction to rebound towards Toga. That means with a well-timed roll, you can get alpha to rebound behind enemy cover and hit them while staying safe. Next up, her most important combo starter, in my opinion, Beta. This move is called Sting Dance, and it's a single hit wide area of effect attack. This attack kind of stuns enemies on hit, making follow-up attacks like Alpha or Gamma hit much easier. The down power on this move is 250, but again, I'll cover down power in just a moment. This move can also be used to propel yourself through the air depending on which direction you hold on the left stick, or WASD on keyboard. It also hits a wider area if you're further up, but it does have a maximum range. It's best to use this move after jumping to get a decent sized hitbox and speed out of it. Moving onwards towards Gamma, our most complicated move yet, actually. It's called Bloodsucker, and it's also your main movement skill. Essentially how it works is that it fires a projectile outward and then propels you towards that projectile, ending the move with a slash. If you hit an enemy with the projectile part of the move, it has 0 down power and collects their blood. You will then hit them with a knife slash, which deals 500 down power, and then propel them behind you, swapping your positions. Holding down the Gamma after successfully hitting an opponent will transform you instantaneously into them. So, what's a transform? Well, that's half of Toga's special action. If she collects your blood, she's able to transform into you and use your quirk skills at whatever level you had them when she collected your blood, as well as your special action. This does come with a few downsides, though. While transformed, the team of the opponent you transformed into can see you through walls. This means it's not a great idea to stay transformed for too long, as it gives away your movements. Worry not, though, as there's a way to cancel special action early. Just double crouch quickly and you'll immediately untransform. There's also a few actions that stop Toga's transform timer from going down, like opening a box, drinking an HP or GP recovery drink, reviving a teammate, threatening a civilian. So if you're trying to hide, cancel special action before doing any of those. So, what's a down power? I've mentioned it a few times now. Surely it must be important, right? Yes, critically so. Allow me to explain. Down power refers to the amount of progress towards a hard knockdown that any single move contributes. Basically, every move you use on another player makes progress towards knocking them to the ground in an invincible state. The way this progress is measured is simple. If a target experiences 500 down power from any combination of moves from any number of players within a short time span, they get knocked to the ground, unable to be hit. Hey there, editing Numa here. So, I actually neglected to mention that there's moves that completely break that 500 rule, such as Young All For One's Gamma, Kirishima's special action. Like, there are moves that take more than 500 knockdown power to actually put the opponent in a knockdown state, but yeah, for the most part, it's 500 per player. So this means that one of Rapid Toga's Gammas can achieve this state, 2 Betas used back-to-back can achieve it, and 3 Alpha throws can achieve this as well. However, there's a trick to it all. It's sort of like blackjack. Comboing is getting as close to 500 as you can without going over until you're using your highest damage move. So, how does this affect Toga? Well, this means that if you're trying to combo your moves, there's a certain order to them. Gamma, because it has 500 knockdown power, should be used last. Beta has 250 down power, but it stuns, making follow-up attacks much easier. Yeah. This means that in most scenarios, Beta is the move you want to hit the opponent with first, followed instantly by another move. For beginners, it's probably easiest to go from Beta directly into Gamma. It's easy, reliable, gets you blood, and doesn't eat up all your movement options. However, if you're a bit more advanced, you can throw an Alpha in between Beta and Gamma, although be warned, it's not a true combo if you do this. The enemy can roll out if they're on the ground before the Gamma hits. But surely there's more to Rapid Toga than just those combos. Well, allow me to introduce you to Transform combos. Hey there, Editing Numa here. So, this actually is not a Transform combo. This is just a standard Nagant combo. I think my editor got a little confused, but that's a-okay. We all love my editor. So no, a Transform combo would be something more like, Tamaki aim Alpha into special action into the, Gamma. Not Tamaki's Gamma, like Untransformed Toga's Gamma. Basically, it's where you start a combo as the enemy, and you finish it off with some of Toga's moves. So that's what a Transform combo is actually supposed to look like. This is just a really busted-ass nut combo on Nagant. Buy King nerf this shit, please. These are a lot trickier to pull off than your usual combos, but can be infinitely more rewarding. Essentially, when Toga transforms into an enemy and then untransforms, she's returned to a state where she has all of her cooldowns reset instantly, and she's put in a state of 0 end lag. This means you can start a combo using enemies' moves and then untransform and use a few of your moves to save cooldowns and potentially score more damage. A good example of this is right here. So, how do you make sure that you have the right blood in stock for the right scenario? Well, with 23 other players in the lobby, it can definitely seem a bit overwhelming to choose, but fear not, I will help you out. So, blood priority is the phrase I usually use when talking about this, but essentially what it means is, whose blood is the most important to have on hand? In my experience, it depends on a few factors. If you're playing a team mode and your team is close by, focus on quirks that help your team. Instant revive quirks, instant heal quirks, shield quirks, Koigiri's bailout, Fairy Nejire's entire quirk set, etc. These ensure that your team has just as much support as the enemy team, and potentially even more if you use cooldown resets and keep copying the enemy's support. If you're playing a team mode and your team is further away, or you're playing solos, getting high mobility blood is important. This lets you get out of a bad situation much easier and allows you to reach your team quicker should they need your help. These are things like Mirio's special action, Rapid Might's Carolina Smash, Lady Nagant's kickback shot, and airwalk, etc. If neither of the other two blood types are available, you should then turn to quirks that improve your survivability. This includes Momo's shields, Kendo's shields, Tech Dabi's Ring of Fire, Kirishima's special action, etc. If there just isn't any blood that's useful around, still grab it, because it is useful for a cooldown reset if nothing else. Editing Numa, back again. So yeah, no, Tech Shiggy's blood is incredibly useful for, mostly for survivability purposes, also for mobility purposes. I'm not entirely sure, why Tech Shiggy was shown here, but, listen, the blood that I'm talking about that's, like, not all that great or useful for, a multitude of reasons might be, honestly, I can't think of any right off the top of my head, but, usually most characters are good at something, but, I guess a character like maybe Strike Shiggy, although even he has movement and, he has value, so it's really up to your own skill, whether or not you can, play that character as well. But yeah, Tech Shiggy's blood is incredibly useful for both mobility and survivability, so I just wanted to clear that up. His blood is far from useless. So, you're ready to hop into a match now, you say? Hold up there, you're not ready quite yet. There's still a fair amount that we have to cover. Let's start with your spawn point. You see, for Rapid Toga, you don't want to be starting at a point that's too low. You need to be able to give yourself the options of looting an area or leaving if there's too many enemies. It's much, much harder to leave an area if you're at the lowest possible point, so give yourself a vantage point. Now, it's important to remember that although Sting Dance Toga is classified as a Rapid, on her own, she's not that great at running. So take note of where you are, where nearby enemies are spawning, and plan your route accordingly. You do not want to fight multiple people before you've had a chance to level up your quirks. So, how does one maneuver with Rapid Toga then? It's simple, really. Use obstacles, buildings, trees, cars, bushes. Use these to disguise your movements. Rapid Toga doesn't outrun people, she outwits them. She outmaneuvers them. So make sure you're aware of your surroundings at all time. A well-learned Rapid Toga can disappear with only 1 or 2 gammas, so make sure you know your maps. Go into training mode and take the time to study them. So, now that we know the basic premise of maneuvering with Toga, but we need to cover a few preliminaries before going further with Toga. Be aware of your game. Now, Numa, what the hell does that mean, I hear you asking? Well, here's what I mean. Using your game's HUD and audio to tell you what's going on without needing to see it. Here's an example of exactly what I mean.
What? Level up!
So long as you keep that in mind, you'll be golden. And now, yes, we can get into combat now. So, Rapid Toga doesn't have a lot of health. This means she's not able to handle longer, drawn-out brawls, especially against multiple people. Rapid Toga is best used as a sort of assassin, picking off single targets at a time. So, what does this mean? Well, if you see a battlefield that looks like it's a scene straight out of the French Revolution, stay out of the fight. If you see a lone target wander off the heel, that's your time to strike. But you're not facing down multiple teams and winning. It's important to know which fights to take and which to avoid, so I'll try and walk you through it. As I mentioned, all-out brawls you should avoid entirely. But what about solo characters? Well, that depends on a few factors, including enemy health, positioning, quirks, cooldowns, and threat level to you. So here's an example of a fight you shouldn't take.
Level up! No way! Not yet!
It's what you want to be!
Best you've got.
Not yet!
Now, what constitutes a fight that you should take? Well, let's start with enemy health. If you throw an alpha at them and the damage number comes up blue, that means they still have GP and are still relatively tanky. But if that number comes back orange, that means they're down to HP, which you just took more of, so that's a fight you definitely want to press. Enemy positioning is also important. If a character is exceptionally good at AoE attacks, following them indoors is a terrible idea. The same is true in reverse. If a character has a lot of air mobility, it probably isn't a great idea to try challenging them in the air. Enemy quirks matter too, specifically grabs and stuns. Either one of these move types can completely wreck you in seconds, so if you see an Aizawa, Shinso, Aibara, Strike Dabi, or anyone else that has a really powerful grab, it's best to avoid them unless they're low on health and you can tell without hitting them. Keeping track of an enemy cooldown is also important when you're figuring out whether or not to engage them. If you know how many shots a certain character has of a certain quirk skill and they just used all of them in front of you, that means they're defenseless for a short period, and it's a good opportunity to strike. Threat level is also extremely important. Let me ask you a question. Which is more dangerous to Rapid Toga? A Rapid Bakugo or a Strike Deku? If you answered Rapid Bakugo, you'd be correct. His movement allows him to keep up with you and keep firing, meaning you'll die really quickly if you try and escape from him. Strike Deku's movement is more limited, meaning that Rapid Bakugo is the primary threat. Attacks should be focused on him until he either gets knocked out or runs away. But combat is not all about what fights you should take. It's also about knowing when to retreat. If you decide that a fight is worth taking, then make sure you're aware of what's going on around you too. If someone else shows up to third party, retreat immediately. Remember, Rapid Toga is not a horde fighter, she's an assassin. So it's a perfectly acceptable strategy to back off and disappear if somebody's trying to third party. Also, if you take a fight and realize you've underestimated your opponent, retreat quickly. Don't wait until you've got a sliver of health left before deciding to attempt retreat. The moment you realize that none of your attacks are working, leave. Someone else can deal with it, or if there's no one else, you can take a different angle to approach the situation. Regardless of your reasons, if you need to retreat, here's some advice. Stay low to the ground and weave between buildings or other obstacles. Going too high into the sky is a death sentence because your gamma literally stops you in place at the end of the move. Stay low, but not so low that attacks like Strike Shigaraki's beta will hit you. I also recommend climbing walls while escaping so your gammas and betas refresh their cooldowns, assuming you are unable to collect blood to cooldown reset. Sometimes, you know you can't beat someone, but you need to try and scare them off. The best way to maximize your chances of success is to have and use ability cards while being braver than the enemy expects you to be. You could use 2 level 1 cards, it doesn't matter, as long as the enemy sees you use them, that makes them instantly feel disadvantaged. Couple that with you continuing to try and land a combo, and the enemy might just go running while never knowing they could have won the encounter. Hi, Editing Noma again. So I completely forgot to mention that this move is, this strategy is very much a last-ditch effort, and it is not something you should immediately use. Like, this is like if you're desperate and you have no other options. And most of the time, it's not going to work, but there are actually situations where it does. So, but that's not the only mind game you can play. With Toga, deception and strategy are critically important on the battlefield. And using Transform, oh boy, is there plenty of deception to be had. Normally, Transform is something you trigger, use the Quirk skills, and untransform as fast as possible. But what if it wasn't? What if, instead, you use Transform to mess with other enemies? See, here's the thing about Transform's downside. It tells one entire team where you are while you have it active. But none of the other teams can tell you're a Toga until you untransform. With that being said, why not transform into an enemy, get that team to chase you, and run them right into another enemy that you just attacked, looking like them? Sounds crazy, right? But here's the thing. If you're able to escape from the situation and frame your pursuers successfully, it works a lot more of the time than you think. Attacking someone while looking like someone else makes them mad at the person you look like and not you. So, why not take it a step further? Let's say you have Star and Stripes blood like I do in this particular clip. If I use it to turn into her, then wandering around looking for the enemy won't know I'm a Toga. They'll think I'm a Star and Stripe, and likely try and attack in a way that counters her. This allows me to react to their approach by untransforming and using my Gamma to interrupt whatever move they were planning to make, giving me free damage and getting them within range to chase. Just remember these tips and tricks while you're fighting, and you'll get a lot better in no time. Just as there's advice for what to do, there's also advice for what not to do. Starting us off, don't use all of your Gammas unless it's a genuine emergency or you have blood to cooldown reset. Running entirely out of a move causes a slightly longer penalty cooldown that also resets any reload progress you had to the next shot. You'll make yourself entirely unable to run or transform if you run yourself entirely out of Gammas. Second, I already touched this, but do not retreat into the sky. Most characters can shoot you out of it very, very easily, and the ones that can't just got an unobstructed view of your next vacation destination. Stick to cover when retreating. Third, just to nail it home, do not try and take a 2-on-1 or more fight. If you see multiple people fighting, just watch for an opening like one of them are trying to retreat. Fourth, unless you're trying to be followed, do not stay transformed if your victim's team is still alive. Fifth, if you down a solo opponent, do not leave without gathering blood, assuming you have none. Sixth, when you're in a team match, do not go wandering off into Narnia. Stay with your team. Seventh, if your teammate is caught in an enemy move, do not just wait for the move to finish. Try knocking them down before the move ends. Gamma is extremely good at interrupting enemy moves. The unfortunate truth of My Hero Ultra Rumble is that even if you're doing everything right, sometimes there arises situations that you literally cannot win. It's unfortunate, and it's nothing to be ashamed about on your end. These situations can include glitches and bugs, cross-teaming between multiple teams or players, stage design leading to an unfair death, or just an incredibly unbalanced character in an insurmountable position. No matter what the cause, these situations are not your fault. However, sometimes it can be difficult to distinguish between something that is your fault and what isn't. It's best to just ask yourself what you could have done to avoid whatever situation you're trying to analyze. If you can't think of anything you could have done upon further inspection, either you lack the ability to self-reflect, or it's just a situation you literally couldn't do anything in. So make sure you know the difference, and don't be disheartened by the ones you couldn't avoid. Editing Numa here again. This is not a situation that's considered an unwinnable one. This is bad positioning on my part and not, taking proper evasive measures to be able to get away from the Nedre. What I meant by an unwinnable situation is like the Toga glitch that happened a while ago where like you're just frozen in place and you couldn't do anything. Bugs like that. That's what I'm talking about whenever I say unwinnable situations. And it's important to know the difference, because like I said, this one, it was a very much a winnable situation. I just choked. I made mistakes, and that's what I meant whenever I was talking about self-reflecting. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a glimpse into what it looks like whenever you start to truly grasp everything I've shared today, and I do hope you enjoy. Well, that's unfortunate. Give me a sec. I gotta kind of survey the situation.
Tell me why this feels divine.
I may or may not know what I'm doing with Rapid Toga. It looks like we're moving out of pop on this side. Where is that I want to stay the Ochako for a second so that I can not only load the expectation. There he is. Alright, so now his attention is going to be directed that way. There we go. Things considered.
You've got 30 seconds.
GG's. And that's all. If there's anything I didn't cover that you would like more insight on, drop a comment. I'll do my best to answer your questions with as much detail as possible. Also, drop a like if you enjoyed, since that encourages YouTube to push this video out to more people. Make sure you also subscribe if you want to be notified of my videos, songs, and live streams. I appreciate all of you, and thank you very, very much for stopping by. Embrace the darkness and go plus chaos.